So we've got ministry. My video got cut off, so hopefully we can just connect these two videos together. So we have magnification, we've got membership, that's our fellowship. Then we have maturity. Then we have ministry, and then we have mission. That's evangelism. Evangelism and mission goes all together. You know, evangelism and missions is all together. It's all missions, okay? So our goal is to move all of these people in those those 5 groups, from the community to the crowd, to the congregation, to the committed, to the core, all the way through. And then we do that by taking them through the baseball diamond. All right, we're gonna have a baseball diamond motif that we're gonna be dealing with. Man, I wish I had my video, my iPad so I could show you. So the baseball diamond. First, we're gonna start off at home place. Home base. I'm gonna move it up close, Dave, so you can see. All right, home plate is missions. That's the evangelism piece. Okay, so the goal for our process is to move everybody through the diamond until they've been evangelized and now they're part of the body of Christ. So how does this happen? What happens at each level? Worship goes on in the crowd. So worship or magnification is what occurs in the crowd. So each one of these stages, actually people fit into one of those stages. So where we magnify him in the crowd, what does that mean? Those are people, that's the time you're going to most likely get a mass of people to your service will be Sunday morning. So that's the crowd time. That's the time where you're most likely to get a large group in. So if you're going to get a large group in, what we want to occur in that state, in that place, is magnification. Magnify him. If you're looking at the WCC statement, longing to know, that know is worship. That whole idea of a know is worship. So magnification, longing to know him. We want that to be our worship, our big group service, and we want to begin to gear that group service towards the seeker, meaning the one who has never accepted Christ, not familiar with church language. Too often in church, we gear that Sunday morning to believers. Now, we don't want to dumb it down. The word is still going to be solid. The word is still going to be rich and meaty, but we want to make sure that we're sensitive to the ones we're trying to get into the crowd. That means those people on the outside in. So from the music that we listen, from the music that we play, to the type of message that is brought, until the kind of language that we use, till the environment in the sanctuary, in the church, from the greeters outside to the classrooms, the environment in the classroom, a person from the crowd should be able to feel comfortable, say, man, I feel comfortable leaving my baby here, because what we're doing is magnification. We're enlarging him. So in order to enlarge him, we want to set an atmosphere. That's what's going on at that stage, that magnification. So that's done with the crowd. All right, we magnify him. Worship goes on in the crowd. We want to have, that's where we come, where the encountering his presence comes. We want people to come in and encounter the presence of God in that crowd service on Sunday morning. That's our Sunday morning worship service. All right, so magnify in the crowd. So once we've done that, the goal for that Sunday morning service is, once we've magnified him, for the lost to say, man, who is this God? Who is this? And that they become to the point where they want to come to know who he is. Or if they're a part of the body of Christ already and don't have a church home, that we magnify him to the point where someone who's not connected, not in community, says, listen, I want to be a part of this community. All right, I want to be a part of this community. So what goes on is they come in, we magnify, and the goal and the prayer is, what we're looking for is people to make decisions for Christ right during that time. As people make decisions for Christ, now if they make a decision for Christ, now we've got them on first base. That's membership. First base is membership. So what happens at first base, that line between first base and home, what we're going to do as people are coming, becoming a part of the church, and some of these people may not necessarily join, but they want to know more about Christ. What we're going to do is, along that first baseline, if you look here, if you look closely, on first base line, I think I'm right. No, here's on first base. We have something called class one-on-one. Class 101, level 101 class. What that's going to be, level 101 is just simply a class that lets people know what does it mean to be a part of the body of Christ, what does it mean to be a Christian, and what does it mean to be a member of the Washington Christian Center, aka Encounter Church. You see, I'm going to be using that frequently. What does it mean to be a part of our particular fellowship, and what does it mean to be a part of the body of Christ? We want them to know that at Class 101. So once they made that decision, now we're going to plug them into Class 101, where we're going to teach them the basics of the faith and the history of our fellowship and what the core values and the vision of our ministry is, because they're going to be a part. They need to know those things. So that's what happens at Class 101. Now, once they've gone through Class 101, now they're on first base. They are members. It's almost like a quote-unquote new members and / new believers class. So that's Class 101. Now that they are a member of the church, but before a member of the church and a member of the body of Christ, they go together. A member of the body of Christ, now they're on first base. And our goal at first base is that they not just stay there. We don't want them to stay on first base. Now, we want them to, number one, remember, we want them to long to know God. That's encounter him. That's magnify. Then we want them, once they're on first base, we want to get them to second base. And that what we want them to do is strive to grow in his word. So second base is the maturation, maturity. That's maturity base. Okay? So what we want to go on at that is maturity is discipleship. How are we going to accomplish discipleship? So what happens is they complete Class 101, and once they complete Class 101, we're going to plug them in. At the end of Class 101, we're going to introduce them and plug them into a leader, a small group Bible study leader. Our method and mode for discipleship and maturity was going to be in our small groups. There's two things that are going to go in that small groups: fellowship and discipleship. Fellowship and discipleship. So that we were talking about how we're going to mesh these 5 into our 3 statements. Magnification, that's longing to know. Then maturity, that's striving to grow. And as well as membership and maturity, that's striving to grow. Okay, striving to grow. So what we want to do is, we want them to grow. We want them to grow mature. That's in discipleship. But also we want them to be in fellowship. All right. So we strive to grow in community. We're in community. So we're growing together. All right. Striving to grow together in his word. So we're growing together in his word in small groups. So what happens in the small groups? Fellowship and discipleship, maturity happens. So the people get plugged in. They come into the church. All right, they've gone through Class 101. Now they understand what it means to be a part of the body of Christ, part of Washington Christian Center. At the end of Class 101, they are introduced to their small group. And we encourage everyone, listen, if you're going to be a part of this Bible study, this church, you need to be plugged into a small group. So they're introduced to a small group leader. The goal is for our small groups to be demographic. Based on geographic location. So we've got a map of the church. We have a number of people in the Bowie, Upper Marlboro area. So we'll have group northern Prince George's County, central Prince George's County, southern Prince George's County, Charles County, and even Montgomery County and in Northern Virginia. So we may have about 5 groups, okay? Because our members are spread out and we have leaders in those areas. So what we'll do is have leaders in each of those areas. And what we're looking to do is not have a leader host the group, but have another member be a group host. All right? Be a group host. And what we'll do is we do our Bible study small groups in those homes. And the goal is to mesh what's going on in small groups with the content that's going on in the crowd service on Sunday morning. So on Sunday morning, you get a broad brush. But then when it groups, we can put meat on it and really help people grow deeper for what's going on in the small groups. Okay, so that's the longing to know, striving to grow. We're in the small group. So now what happens? They're on first base. First base. Now we commit them to being a part of a small group. And once they're committed to be a part of the small group, now we're going to also have a class called Class 201. Class 201 is growing in your faith. What it means to grow is a spiritual growth class. And we're going to be teaching some spiritual disciplines. There are some core spiritual disciplines. Give me 1 second. Hold on. Some core spiritual disciplines. I'm trying to pull out my book here, Dave, so we can so I could show it. But they're going to be doing some core spiritual disciplines. Class 201 is to grow people to spiritual maturity. All right. So what happens? We're going to be talking about in class 201 the importance of having a quiet time, the importance of your prayer life. Okay. Those are some things that we'll be talking about in class 201. Some core disciplines. Give me 1 second. 1 second. I'm sorry, Dave. Okay, so that will be in class 201. Now at class 101, at the end of class 101, everybody signs a membership covenant that says, I understand what it means to be a member here at the Washington Christian Center. I have an example of a membership covenant. Hold on real quick. I've got an example of my membership covenant right here. Got a lot of good material here. We have a covenant for our teachers, a covenant for the volunteers as well, but that's later. So, what? Okay, I'm sorry. So, but that's the detail. That's details. I can put the meat on that later. So you have a membership covenant at the end of class 101. Then they're plugged into 201. They're plugged into a small group. They're learning what it means to have quiet time, all of that. And they're involved in small groups. So once they've completed class 201, they sign a maturity covenant that says, I'm committing to these spiritual disciplines. I'm committing to having a prayer time. I'm committing to having a personal time, spending personal time and personal worship time with God. So that's what happens at the end of class 201. And now they're involved in their small groups. So and the small groups are meshing with our sermons. Now, let me tell you about the small groups also. Another thing we want to do in small groups is we also want to have every small group do do outreach projects. So the small group is actually, these cell groups are actually like mini branches of Encounter, many branches of WCC in different locations, because the vision in the future is actually to plant churches throughout the area. Solid churches. That's multiplication, to plant churches. So that's going in. So what we do, every small group is going to have a ministry project. It's going to have an outreach project. So we're working together, we're learning together, and then at the culmination of your small group, boom, you're going to do an outreach project. And let's think about that. Say you have 5, 6 groups going, and everybody's doing an outreach project. The things that we can reap from that, and the groups will come together. We'll have a fellowship at the end of each little session. Now each small group will probably meet between 6 to 8 weeks. We take a week or 2 off to give everybody a break, give the leaders a break, and then we relaunch. Okay, as we do. So we'll try to do the small groups maybe in conjunction with with the sermon series. All right, so like 6 weeks at a time. Some of them may be less than that. So now we're on second base. Second base. Well, so we've longed to know worship or magnification. Strive to grow. That's membership and maturity. And now what we try to do is we want to get them to third base. They're on second, that maturity base. We're trying to get them to third base. Third base is what we call is ministry, where they're now being launched to do ministry in the church and outside of the church. And what we want to do, we have certain ministries in the church now. You have children's ministry, you have worship ministry, all of that. We want to give people an opportunity to understand how God's wired them for ministry. Everybody's got different gifts and talents. And the goal is for people not to sit, not to come and relax. So what we're going to do right here at second base, now we're going to give them opportunity to participate in class 301. Class 301 is discovering how God designed you for ministry, so that they, during that class, can understand what their gifts are, can understand what some of their strengths are, and some ministry interests that they may have, and get them exposed to different ministries that are in the church, but also different ministries that we may support, or things that are out there that they want to get involved in. And also, we want to give people the freedom to be able to launch new ministries, launch new ideas, and it doesn't have to go through all these board meetings, as long as it fits into our core values. Transformation. All right, that's number one. Our core values. I'm getting ahead. I'll go back to that later. I'll give the core values at the end. As long as it fits into our core values and it's lined up with biblical, you bring it to somebody. Hey, let's launch it, man. Let's do it. Let's see how we can go. So that's class 301. Discovering how God has designed you for ministry. And at the end of that, they sign a ministry covenant. They get plugged into a different ministry. So now what's happening is people aren't recognizing the church is not for them. They're serving. You're here. Now, our whole goal is not to be here for us. It's for the outside world. Okay? It's for the outside world. So what happened is they do class 301. We push them to class 301, and they get launched into different ministries. Okay? They're getting launched into different ministries. So once they're now they're on third base. So what's happening is you can see we have worship or magnification in the crowd, and then what do we have? We have magnification, in the crowd. Then we had membership. You had fellowship that was going on. That's that membership base. Fellowship that goes on with the congregation. Fellowship goes on with the congregation. But then we also, and that's the congregation is in our small groups. Dave, I got to pause. I'm going to come back. I'm going to send you another video.